What's going on, everybody? Brandon from Awaken Instincts back again with another deck profile for you guys. Today I'm going to be going over a new Battle Evolutions deck. This deck has really been fun. It's not my typical play style. I'm usually a heavy aggro player, but I do like control decks. And I thought I'd give this a visit again with the new support, and played it at locals last night, went 2-1. And the only game I lost was basically I just conceded because I couldn't find what I needed and we were getting close to time. But regardless, the deck ran really well. I think with some minor changes, this deck could be a real good contender, at least for a best of one. So if you guys forgot what the leader does, this is an old set 8 leader. She starts with the field card in play, the Android 21 scheme. Then activate main, you can pop a clone token to draw one, take a life, choose to bounce one of their 1-drops back to their hand or not, and that's it. So you got self-awaken and draw by popping a clone token on the front, and then when you're at 4 or less, you draw 2 and flip. And then on the awaken side, when she attacks, you draw a card, and then she also has an activate main that you can pop a clone token. And again, you can bounce a 1 cost. And then you also reduce the combo cost of all blue and green cards in your hand and battle area by 1 for the duration of the turn. So this can come in kind of important at times, but ultimately we don't use this effect too much, but I'll let you know. So we start with the field card. This is the field card we start with in play. This card says, when you or your opponent play a non-token battle card, it can attack for the turn. So this is a once per turn, says the first battle card that hits the field can attack. When you play a black battle card, place it in its owner's drop area so you can't overwhelm. You can overwhelm for like draw effects, but they don't stay. I wouldn't recommend on playing any overwhelms in the deck at the moment, but the other last auto is at the start of your opponent's main phase. They make 2 clone tokens. As you can see at the top there, the little army of clone tokens ready. So that's the whole point of this deck. We give our opponent clone tokens, and then we pop them for effects, right? So, getting into the deck list here. So first off, we've got the new support. So we've got 4 of the Unison and 4 of Android 16. So these 2 are new cards from the new Battle Evolution set, and they are absolutely fantastic for the deck. This Unison here, he's a 2 blue specified Unison. He has an activate main that says if you don't have a Unison card in play, and you choose one of your opponent's clone tokens and remove it from the game, you can play this card from your hand in rest mode with a marker on it. So, if you go first, you can't play this card turn 1. But if you go second, you can play this card turn 1, which is pretty crazy in my opinion. So, I think it's balanced enough that you can't play it turn 1 going first. But going second, you're never really at a disadvantage going second, just having access to this. It's an incredibly powerful play, having a Unison on field with 3 markers on, opening turn, and not having to pay energy for it. Getting access to all the good stuff that goes along with having a Unison on field, it's just amazing. So the +2 activate main, you can buff your leader by 5k. And then it puts a floating effect that your opponent's clone tokens can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Really good. And then the -4, activate battle. This card gets 11,000 power and double strike for the turn. So one thing I really enjoy about this is it still puts on pressure, and you buff this thing up like crazy every turn, just +2. If you have it out turn 1, by turn 3 or 4, you're going to have plenty of markers on this. And you can just swing with it and put pressure on, and then, a lot of times they're going to negate it because they don't want the activate battle to go off, mid-combo. ultimately making him a 25k double strike. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's pretty good. And then the card to go with it, we've got this Android 16 for his mother. He's a 1-drop unique. It says this card can't be used in a combo from the battle area, and your opponent's clone tokens can't attack. So when a clone token is played by the skill of one of your extra cards, you play 2 clone tokens to your opponent's battle area. So ultimately, with this card, every turn our scheme's making 2 tokens, and when that triggers, this says make 2 more. So as long as he's on the field, your opponent's going to be making 4 clone tokens a turn. This will give you access to, plenty of clone tokens to pop for effects. And he's also got an activate main that says you can remove a clone token from the game and play this card from your hand or drop area, which is extremely relevant. So the fact that you can play both of these guys turn 1 for free, if they go first, they make their 2 clone tokens, and then on your turn, you sack both of those clone tokens to get both of these guys on field. Then next turn, on turn 2 and 3, going forward, they're going to be making 4 a turn, which is really, really good. So one thing I'd like to note is playing this guy without the unison is really risky, because Android 16 only stops your opponent's clone tokens from attacking as long as he's on the field. So if they remove him, the clone tokens are going in. So keep that in mind. You'll make them 4 clone tokens, and then if they remove this, they're going to attack with all 4, and you're going to be awakening really quick, which isn't the biggest deal. They are only 10k, so once you're awakened, if they want to put pressure on with the tokens, they're going to have to use cards from hand, and that's fine. We have plenty of ways to slow our opponents down. That is the whole idea of this deck. So we'll get into the next cards in the deck. So having a turn 1 unison, or turn 2 if we go first, just having that early unison for free gives us access to these cards, which is just really, 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 really good to me. And it's mainly the reason I wanted to play the deck. So the first card we've got here is this new Android 18, Let the Battle Begin. She's a 4-cost blocker, 15k, with counterplay. It says play this card, and then if the battle card being played has an energy cost of 4 or less, it's placed at the bottom of its owner's deck instead of being played. And if your leader card is an Android or Heroine, and you have a Unison card in play with a specified cost of 2 or more, and it's your opponent's turn, reduce their cost by 3. So ultimately, if you have the Unison out, you can play her turn 1. And you can bottom deck whatever they're playing, which is really, really strong. So, we've got God Sealing Technique, which is, the blue staple at this point that can bounce it back to hand, but some things we don't want going back to hand, because then they can just free play it again or whatever it may be. So Android 18 is great, and she's also a 15k blocker, and the whole name of this deck is just defense. We want to stall out the game and drag it out, so access to these counterplays is great, and access to this card, turn 1. If you charge your mono blue open and you play your Unison for free, you can leave your energy open for this, which is going to stop your opponent at 2 or 3 energy, and you being able to play this is just nuts that early in the game, and that's when this card is best. As the game goes on, this card becomes less relevant. Turn 5, turn 6, this card barely does anything at that point. So having this out early is awesome. And look at this new alt art that just came out with this new buy a box promo. I got lucky and happened to pull this guy. Really cool. So that's our opener. We're just running 3 of each there for now. Speaking of, I would definitely run this at 4. This card is so insane in the early game, but like I said, it wears off. as the game goes on, but running 4 just guarantees you see it early when you really need it. So I would definitely bump this up to 4. I'm going to try and get myself a 4th copy. The card is just really, really, really expensive right now. And if this deck does well in any of these upcoming tournaments, it's probably not going to get any cheaper. So next we'll get into blue staples. You already know it. 4 Bean, 4D Magic. Not really going to talk about them. You know what they do. But I do got to show off this shiny full art foil Senzu Bean. The thing is just sweet. So 4 Bean, 4D Magic, pretty staple at this point. Next up, we've got last counterplay in the deck. We've got Absolute Release Ball. If your leader card is blue, life's at 4 or less. If they play something 3 or less, you can return it to their hand and then untap an energy. So it's basically a free counterplay, which is really good. And if you have a multicolor card in your energy and your life's at 4 or less, you can actually take a life to do this, which can actually net you an energy. And spoiler alert, we are running multicolor, so this card can come in very clutch at times. You know, if you're tapped out, you can counterplay something with this, untap an energy, then go Senzu Bean, and you know, keep going from there. And next thing you know, you're back to swinging. So we're just running 1 copy of that right now, and we are running multicolor. So we'll get into the splash. The only red card we play in the deck. 4 Topo. We want to drag the game out. We want to make it last, and we want to get to the late game. So Topo's fantastic. Helps us drag it out. And Topo's only 1 red energy, so it's pretty easy to play him. You can charge a mono blue turn 1 and still be able to Topo turn 2. So we've also got our other multicolor stuff in the deck. We are running 3 Mecha, 4 Beerus, 3 Hercule, and 3 Cooler. So this is our multicolor package of the deck. We're not going too heavy on it. We don't want to, you know, most of the deck is mono blue. We really don't need red except for Topo and Cooler Arrival, so I wanted to keep the multicolor stuff down a little bit, but still have access to it. It's very, very good in the deck. You know, playing your turn 1 Trunks Negate, you know, going back to your turn, swinging 15k with the card, and then, you know, using your leader effect to pop a clone token. You can reduce the combo cost of red-blue cards in your hand, so it's also really nice that you don't have to waste Beerus super combos necessarily. If you have, you know, 2 Hercule and Boos in hand or Coolers, you can just combo it for free, you know, using your leader, and then use your energy to Arrival the other copy out. You know, it's really nice being able to kind of combo red-blue for free on both your turn and your opponent's turn. You know, Beerus obviously can untap on your opponent's turn, but on our turn, you know, it feels bad kind of comboing a red-blue card and actually paying for it. So just a fun note of it, you know, bouncing Trunks back to hand with Hercule, having it ready for next turn, or also Topo, you know, as the game goes on. Play your Topo and it goes back to you, you know, bounce it back to hand with Hercule. It's extremely powerful. So had to include it in the deck. And 3 Cooler, it's great, you know, getting rid of barrier cards. You know, people love to run the silver bullets against blue, you know, little barrier guys that try and stop you from untapping or make you, you know, crit a life or whatever it is. So Cooler's great to get rid of those guys. And he's just a red-blue staple at this point, so. And now we'll get into the last part of the deck. This is the whole point of the deck. So, we're running this combo. We're running full power Frieza, 100% overdrive. It's generally the whole purpose of this deck. It's a 1-turn kill deck. We can play the entire game, never swinging at our opponent's life, making it either difficult for them to self-awaken, and just ultimately denying them resources. We don't want to give them any extra cards. We don't draw a ton of cards in this deck, so we want to, keep our opponent's hand size low. We have answers for early aggro. We have good ways to stop it. But we gotta get to the late game. And sometimes turn 4 is early enough to play Frieza and swing and mill your opponent out. But sometimes you gotta wait till turn 5. But either way, it's still better to play Rebirth turn 4, or to play Rebirth for 4 energy versus hard casting it for 5. It also opens up a counter window, so if you pay 4 for this and your opponent has a counter play that could potentially hit Frieza and either send him to the drop or bottom of the deck or whatever it may be, if it's like Royal Condemnation, you can just choose not to play something from your hand and keep it and play it next turn. So just another thing to note about this. But Frieza, ultimately, I'm sure you all know, 30k triple strike, but when he swings, you minus the entire board, ignoring barrier, minus 30k. And whenever you minus a battle card, they mill 2 cards. So just going into it, turn 1, let's say they start with their 2 clone tokens. They pass to you. You pop both those clone tokens for your Unison and your Android 16 1-drop, and then and then pass back to your opponent, and then they'll create 4 clone tokens on their turn 2, right? So then you pass again, and then on their turn 3, they make 4 more, then they'll be at 8 clone tokens. Turn 4, 12, and then turn 5, they'll be at 16. So as long as you can keep this flow going, 16 clone tokens, that's 32 cards in deck they're gonna mill when Frieza swings. It's absolutely incredible. But another thing to note too, you have to be careful with Frieza because of your field card that you start with. Got to remember that this auto, the first card that's played on a turn, can't attack. So don't fall into the trap of playing Frieza as the first card on the turn. So yeah, we're running 4 Frieza, 2 Rebirth. We need to see this card. The only game I didn't win last night was because he plucked the 5-drop Frieza from my hand with one of his effects. And it was the only one in my hand, and I just didn't see one. Eventually, it was like turn 7, and I just conceded at that point. It was down to 1 life. I was running out of resources, and I just couldn't see the Frieza. So, not much I could really do about that. I would like to increase the draw power in the deck, but I'll have to revisit it and change a few minor things. So, last card in the deck. Figured we'd run this card just to test it out. I thought it sounded fun. Kai is the only good secret rare for this deck that I would play, but with Kai, if you wipe field, then you have no clone tokens to minus. So, ultimately Baby Hatch is probably the best secret rare for the deck, hands down, but I don't own the card personally, and I'm not a big blue player. It's probably the only blue deck I'll be playing for a long time. I love red blue, don't get me wrong. I love Cooler, and I played Invoker for a little bit, but again, that's not really my style. But I love the red blue, aggressive, milling, minusing, all that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd give this secret rare a try, and it was really great, actually. There's only one game where I didn't have a good card to steal. I was playing against Hirudegarn deck, and he's just running all the big 9-drops, and it's all little 1-drop, 2-drop Tapion Minosha dudes, and then 9-drop big blockers. So there's really no good targets for me to steal. But one game I was playing against Bulma Gogeta, and he swung with the 6-drop, and I stole it with this, and it was just That felt really good. Stealing the 6-drop, because that thing can't be KO'd, but, you know, can be stolen. So I'd probably run Baby Hatch if you own it, but give this card a try. I think it'll surprise you. I know it's going down quickly in price, so I'll probably tank a bit, but I would definitely pick this up whenever you have the opportunity to. This card's super fun and can really catch your opponent off guard, especially if they don't know you're running it. And then when they do know you're running it, they have to play, you know, really smart, thinking, you know, thinking twice before they go in with anything 7 or less, because you might have this in your hand. So that's the deck. That's Android 18. She did pretty well last night. I'm gonna make some minor modifications to the deck and potentially play it next week at the regionals. And I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. And thanks for stopping in. We'll see you next time. Peace out.